FM.
Welcome to the first episode of the second series of the Spitty podcast. We are filming this just before Christmas 24, so last month, ready for obviously this year. And I'm joined by my first guest of the second series, Levene.
Hi there, thanks for having me. Yeah, no, I really appreciate it.
So, before we get any further, we should. So, last year I had a couple of people that were on that started life as an independent person by itself. So, give us a taste of what that was like.
So, before my injury, I was a very active person. Loved sport, generally just did anything that I could to play with the ball. My family would find me running around the fields, anything I could to get outside. Travelled the world with a military family, I lived on various continents. I've been used to kind of like the ease of getting on a plane and just going wherever you wanted to go, and all of that kind of stuff that is slightly more tricky with disability. So I guess I was in many ways privileged growing up. I had a very good upbringing, and I was very lucky to be active and like healthy overall.
And whereabouts are you from?
So I don't really know the answer to that question because of my upbringing. We moved every 2 years, but I consider myself to be really from Cornwall. I went to boarding school down there because my parents were moving around a lot. We had to go to a stable school. My grandparents lived down there. I was christened down there, so I feel like I had very strong links with the county. But now I currently live in London. I've lived there for about 8 years, so bit of Cornwall, bit of London now, really.
And have anything changed? Actually, you said you have in the background. So when did you start playing rugby?
I started playing rugby in 2003. I remember the year because it was when England won the World Cup. I started playing about 4 months before that, and loved it because that was really started because I went to secondary school and it was a big rugby school. That was their main sport, and so any sport I could play I would get involved in.
So back in 2002, you started secondary school, or what age were you?
So I started at secondary school in 2003.
Oh.
And then started when I was 11. That'd be about 2003.
Okay, so you're well, I didn't know how old you are now, so I didn't know.
So I'm 32 now.
Okay.
It was 15 years ago.
So you were described as saying you were having the best game of your life. Age 17, you had what sort of tackle was it?
It's hard to say, basically. I picked up the ball from the back of a ruck. For those that don't know, a ruck is like when someone's tackled, it's the competition after the tackle. And I picked up the ball from the back of that. As I picked up the ball, I went to run forwards. It was actually the last play of the game as well, which is annoying because we'd already won. But as I went forwards, somebody grabbed the back of my collar and somebody else tackled my ankles. So my legs went up in the air and my head went to the ground. And obviously the first thing that hit the ground was my forehead, and that snapped my back, snapped my neck at like a C5, 6 level, so just above the shoulders. It was like instantly I felt like the lights had been switched off. So my legs just like all the power just went. I was lying there, and I kind of knew what had happened. In that exact moment, it felt like, I'd read about someone else that had something similar, and I was like, as soon as the nurse ran on, I was like, I think I've broken my neck, and she was like, well, we can't say that yet, but we'll call the ambulance, and I waited there about 2 hours until the ambulance came, and then it was the whole start of a new world for me. So,
And This was towards the end of the game as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, as I say, it was the last play of the game, which was slightly annoying. 'Cause,
You always went unscathed.
Yeah, and I played so many years, and then for it to be like, I didn't need to pick that ball up, even if I just like kicked it out or anything, it would have been, we would have won.
Yeah.
So it just be one of those things that's ironic, isn't it? But it's,
And that meant that you were left paralysed. You've got paralysis in all four limbs. And you've got no movement or feeling from the chest below, is that right?
yeah, so it's about nipple level below, really. Like that's where there's no feeling, no movement. And
But you do have limited arm movement, as you can see that.
so in terms of my arms, I can use my arms quite well in some ways, but I've got no use of my hands and my fingers. Like I can kind of pick things up, but using different techniques, but I don't actually have any dexterity. And my triceps don't work, so I struggle to lift my hand up directly in the air, although I can. Through a lot of the training I've been doing lately, I'm getting much stronger, so I'll never be able to walk again, I'll never be able to use those muscles fully, but I can use what I've got.
And so you went into hospital, you had operations, surgeries?
Yeah, so I had 2 days after my injury, I had a 12-hour operation where they put scaffolding in the front and back of my neck. Before that I was on, I think, nose traction, so they drilled a thing called a halo into my head and they hung weights until it straightened up my neck, so that was about 30 kilos hanging from my neck until it was straight enough to operate. I then had 2 months in ICU where I was, unfortunately I caught pneumonia, so I was very touch and go whether I was going to survive. Luckily I did. And then I moved hospital, so originally I was in Derriford in Plymouth, and then I moved to a specialist spinal rehabilitation centre.
And what hospital was it that treated you?
So it was Derriford Hospital that did the initial treatment, and then a hospital in Salisbury that was my rehab unit that I spent 7 months further up.
That's good to me, that's for some hands rehab. So 17, you were in the middle of GCSEs?
A levels, so
A-levels.
I'd done my AS levels and I'd just started my second year of A levels.
Did you drop out or did you just go back afterwards and continue?
Yeah, so one of the things that when I was in the rehab centre, someone came in from a charity and they basically said if you don't do anything in the first 3 years of your life, the statistics show, not your life, the first 3 years after injury, the statistics show you'll end up in a kind of a rut and you don't then go and do something. So they said whatever you want to do it, but make a point of it. So I then was that's kind of scared me a little bit, so I was I need to get back to school and finish my A-levels. So I came out of hospital in July after 9 months total of being in hospital environment, and I went back to my A-levels in September. That was a really tough year. I probably rushed it a little bit, but I also made the right decision because at least I had some friends still there, and I was friends with some of the people in the year below me, so I could kind of carry on as somewhat normal. But yeah, it wasn't easy. I was missing 3 days a week through illness. And
so you went back a year later?
Yeah, I went back effectively 10 months later.
Yeah.
To finish my A-levels, and that was quite a struggle.
But it was nice to get back to some normality, I suppose, as well.
It was, yeah. It was really good to be socialising again and be in a somewhat familiar environment, although scary at the same time because I've been very you become sort of institutionalised in that hospital, and then when you come out again, it's almost you've got to learn to be around people again.
Yeah.
It's a strange place to be.
And how was going back home? Because obviously things had to be adapted for you, changed.
Again, I was somewhat lucky that my mum's sister had been disabled as well.
Okay.
So unfortunately she passed away a while ago, but my grandparents' house was kind of somewhat adapted because of that, but it wasn't up to sort of modern standards, so we did still have to fit like a wet room and things, but we kind of, at least I had a bungalow that I could kind of move into, which a lot of people are not lucky enough to have. It did take about 6 months to fit the wet room, so I was kind of having to bed bath and things, which was not very pleasant, but we got there in the end, and yeah, at least I had somewhere to stay and a family to go to, I guess.
And then at the same age, I don't know whether it's before your injury or afterwards, you probably tell me. You said that one day you were going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro.
Yeah, so that was a couple of months before my injury. So I was, as my parents were military, so we were at that time sent to Kenya as a family to be part of like I think it's British peacekeeping unit out there. But as part of that, we were sort of travelling around Kenya, and there was a night where we stayed in this national park, and it was looking over at the Tanzanian border with Mount Kilimanjaro in the distance, and it was just so spectacular, and like sort of firelight with this beautiful mountain in the background. I remember sitting there thinking, one day I'm going to climb that mountain. But then obviously a few months later I had the injury, and that thought completely disappeared from my mind. I never thought that would ever happen. I didn't really think I'd get back to living a normal life, so to climb a mountain just wasn't even on my radar.
So when did, and then a few years after that, you got told that you were normal again by the doctors now. So was the climbing ambition sort of put to one side for a while? Or was it always sort of a burning passion in your mind? I still want to do it.
I would say it wasn't even pushed to one side, it was completely forgotten about, because it just didn't seem remotely possible. So yeah, it was almost like other things became my goals, just learning to push a wheelchair, learning to get back to my A-levels, trying to do that then university, trying to get a degree with my disability while it was still quite fresh, and all of those little things kind of took over as my goals. And then I would say that it started to become more of a reality when I met my partner at university, and she was kind of like, after university I kind of went into a bit of a rut, and I was a bit like, what next? I got a job, I got like, but it was, I was kind of stagnating a little bit, and my partner was kind of like, you've got to just, all these people, although disability has lots of problems, I'm in a very lucky position that I've got a lot of supporters, and I made a lot of contacts, and I've got charities that support me and things, so I get quite a lot of opportunities in some ways from it, but I wasn't really taking the full chance of these opportunities. So she, during COVID, was kind of like, you've got to take these opportunities, you've got to say yes to everything, and that's when maybe it started to kind of reignite my passion for doing slightly crazier things, I'd say.
And your partner is able-bodied?
Yes.
Right, yeah.
Well, she has her own disability. On the face of it, you think she's able-bodied, but she's got a condition with her brain.
Hidden disability then?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't know it unless she just basically gets really bad migraines and strokes that like cause her tiredness. But if you met her on a day-to-day basis, you wouldn't realise.
Yeah, and then you mentioned university. You studied business economics and then a master's after that in development economics at UEA.
Yes, yeah, so I kind of knew I wanted to do economics before my injury. I was good at it at school, so it was something that seemed like the logical step for me. It was a degree that felt very possible with a disability, and also could lead to job opportunities that would fit my disability. So yeah, I had a great time at university. It was some of the best years of my life, and it really was where I became myself again, I would say. Like, I learned to be accepting of my disability, and actually when I first was injured I kind of shied away from disability. Like, I was a bit like, I don't want to be associated too much with other disabled people, and it was a weird frame of mind to be in. But when I got to university, I realised I'm closing myself off to a whole world here that, like, I shouldn't be. And when I opened myself to that, it was I became far more accepting of. I think I just hadn't accepted it fully. So then at university, I ended up becoming the disability officer at the union. Ended up doing a lot of campaigns. We set up the first disability history campaign. All sorts of things, and it really opened that door to a whole new world for me, where I realised that there was opportunities out there.
Did you always want to do economics, or was it just something you just saw on the university list of subjects?
So my school offered it at A-level as an option, but effectively I picked my first 3 options for A-level, and I knew what I wanted. It's like, loved sports, did PE, was good at geography, did that, and history I was okay at, so I was like, I'll pick those. And then I was like, what do I do as my 4th option? And I saw economics on the list. I was like, I'm not very good at maths, so I'm not sure. And I was also like, English, I'm good at, but I find it really boring. So it was kind of between those, and in the end I flipped a coin, and it landed on economics, and I took it, and I realised it was like a real love of mine, and I was good at it. So I always say, like, in some ways my life changed when I broke my neck. My life also changed on flip of a coin, because my whole career has been based upon that.
And enlighten me a bit here. UEA, what's that stand for?
University of East Anglia.
I thought so.
Yeah. It's a lovely uni. If anyone is considering it, I'd very recommend it.
And you graduated?
Yeah.
Congratulations, brother. And you went straight on to the civil service.
Yes. So again, I'm not the most organised person. That's something my past brings to my life. So I was kind of like leading up to the end of my master's degree, and trying to figure out what I do with jobs. And it was just an off chance in the corridor, one of the lecturers kind of pulled me aside and said, "Oh, have you considered applying for the civil service?" And I was like, "No, why would I?" And he was like, "Because you're good at economics, it's interesting." And all of that. And I was kind of like, "When does the application close?" And he was like, "Tonight." So I kind of, again, I was like, "Oh, I guess I probably should give it a go." Applied that night. It took me about 4 or 5 hours to put all my application stuff together. I got it in about half an hour before the deadline. And I sent it off.
I've always left it to the last minute at university, and
to be honest, no, I'm not very organised, but when it came to my essays and things, I was always like a week before. But with this, I just didn't really even know. It didn't even come onto my radar until the last day. I think I was too busy partying that I missed the job lecture.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, it was good. But yeah, luckily I got through that stage, and through there was about 3 or 4 stages of interviews, economic testing, all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's not an easy process by any means, but got through it. And
there's a lot of due diligence.
Yeah. It was it was about 4 or 5 months of different interviews and stuff. But yeah, it was worth it in the end.
And how long were you there for?
In the civil service, I'm still there. So been there for 8 years. Now is it 8 years? No, 7 years. Been promoted twice now, and I'm in a really good position where I've got a team that I manage with a job share, who's also got a disability herself, and we kind of have a team of about 4 people to manage, and it's really great.
Has you always wanted to work in the civil service?
What's it like to work there? It can be frustrating at times, but it can also, it's very rewarding. And I do say, one thing that, at least in my department, they've got right is they do look after their staff properly. So in terms of if I have additional needs and things, they're very open to working around my condition. So I work from home mostly. I have flexible hours. As I said, I started having a job share because I said I just like it was getting too much for me with the days, so I reduced my day and had a job share. They in that way they're really great. But sometimes they can be frustrating. Things can be slow, and there's lots of paperwork.
Have you always wanted to work for the civil service since you started working on it? So,
as I said, it didn't really come onto my radar until the day before the application day. But I do think it was a really good decision. Like it was. It was.
The least you can do is apply, and you've got to get it, you've got to get it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I encourage anyone with a disability to apply for the civil service if they felt like they wanted to. Yeah, I would.
And before we get a little bit more into your mountain challenge that is obviously embedded in a lot of this conversation, the friends that went with you, were they friends from a young age or friends that you've met through college, university?
So the ones that went with me on Kilimanjaro were a mixture actually. So 3 of them were there when I broke my neck. So they were school friends that I'd known from about the age of 11. And 2 of them from the age of 11, 1 from the age of 16. But they are lifelong friends, and I always say when you have an injury, you really discover who your true friends are.
Exactly,
And it's, that in some ways that's a blessing. So, and then the other friends were either family of those friends or people I've met in the meantime. One I met on a ski trip with a charity. He was the one I met as my assistant, sort of medical assistant, carer, as you call it. There was a real mixture. 2 of them I'd never met before actually, until we got to the mountain, but they were friends of friends.
Oh, okay. They're not mutual friends.
Yeah, kind of friends that my friend knew them and they were really keen and they wanted to get involved, so I said why not, and we talked over Zoom. They got the challenge and they were kind of like up for it. So, and they were really great, and I look forward to many years with spending time with them. So
And so, going back a bit, you were 17 when you said that you wanted to climb it. At what age did you end up doing it?
So it was this year, so I was 32 when I ended up doing it.
This was in September, wasn't it?
Yes, so September we started on...
It was 3 months ago, by the way, because this is obviously next year, so...
Of course, September 2024, but it was... we originally picked the June, because we were going to go with another wheelchair user, and it was his birthday in June, but unfortunately he had to drop out because, not an unfortunate reason, he was having a baby. But it was, he thought he couldn't have a baby and go up a mountain a couple of months later. So we ended up, I kind of looked at it and I was like, if I'm going to do it, I have to do it this year. But we pushed it back to September because the weather would have been better, and it just made more sense. It gave us a little bit more time to organise and all of that.
And before we go any further with it, how was the planning process?
Long.
How long did it take?
So the first discussion I had to the actual trip was coming on for 2 years, I would say.
Okay.
Probably 18 months of full planning. I had to do lots of things. So I needed a chair that was suitable to go up the mountain. That was a long process. I had to organise a team to get up the mountain with, and that included someone on the ground out there, like the new Kilimanjaro had the porters and things available to carry gear and all of that. Luckily we found that quite fast. There was a company called Kilimanjaro Experts that were really keen to get involved in the challenge and sorted us out with all of that kind of stuff. Not many companies I think would be willing to take the risk, I think. And then then we were trying to raise some money for charity, so there was a lot of organising events. We had a comedy event, we had another rugby event, that kind of thing. So that was quite a lot of organising involved in that. And then it was just the the kit and all of that as well. So we realised quite early on we wouldn't be able to fund it ourselves, so we needed to reach out to sponsors.
That was a challenge, I suppose.
That was a real challenge. So we had to just me and my partner just wrote to lots of different companies. Just spent weeks doing that, just every evening writing to companies, and we got very, very lucky. I think that we had two really supportive companies. One I can't name because they wanted to be kept secret, but they funded my wheelchair. And then another was Berghaus, who sponsored all my kit, so they supplied kit for the whole team that went up the mountain, which saved us loads of money, and was so needed because I struggled with my temperature control and things, so having really good outdoor clothing and layers was vital to me. And then we also got sponsored by the Jeff and Fiona Squires Trust, who heard about the story and wanted to get involved, so they put some money in to pay off the final little bit of the jet that wasn't covered by the other company. But they also very kindly gave to one of our charities quite a big sum of money because we were raising it for them, and because they heard our story, they looked into the charity a bit more and thought they were a worthy cause. So overall, I think we've definitely raised over £10,000 so far. But then with that, for the charities directly.
We'll go to that in a minute.
Yeah, and then that's not including the Jeff and Fiona Squires Trust, who also put a lot more money than that on top. So we've done. Yeah, I'm really proud of what we've done. Yeah.
Just seeing that much money it's perfect.
Yeah, I think the backing we got showed how worth it was, and it was an incredible thing to do, but it was also quite humbling of the amount of support I've had over the years, and people really want me to do well, and people getting behind me, and they hear the story, and they think it's I hate being that inspirational thing for no reason, but I feel like in some ways there is a reason now. If people say that,
it's not really what was to continue to about inspiration.
Yeah, it's a lot of people just look at someone in a wheelchair and they say, "Oh, he's inspirational." It's kind of a bit annoying, but when you actually feel like you've achieved something, then it's okay, I can accept that. That's good, but I'm glad that now.
Yeah. So. How long did it take to get up there?
So it took 8 days, in total 6 days up, 2 days down.
Okay.
It was very, very challenging each day. It was about 5 or 6 hours of hiking each day, which involves bouncing a lot. Bouncing a lot, just physical exertion. Each day got colder, obviously, so at one point it was -10 near the top. You've got high altitude, so even on the first day you're at an altitude where the body starts being affected. So that means you can't breathe properly, you can't think properly, you start getting headaches and things. It's quite unpleasant, but thankfully I've done, again, my partner being organised had organised me to do altitude training for 2 months in advance, which is breathing through a reduced oxygen machine, basically. And that really helped me not suffer too badly from the altitude sickness.
So how was the living arrangement? Obviously, was it a tent?
It was a tent.
Sleeping bags?
Yeah, we had
camping.
We had Arctic sleeping bags, which were fantastic, but you still weren't particularly cosy. So I slept in 3 layers and a sleeping bag, and was still on the chillier side. But it was, the tent situation was great. The company had thought things through, and they said normally they supply low down tents, but obviously I need to do things like toileting on the mountain, all of that. So they had a high tent for me that you could stand up in. I obviously can't stand, but the people helping me would need to stand. So we had a couple of beds so that I could transfer, camp beds that could be folded, so I could transfer in and out, all of that. So in some ways, it was kind of luxury, but in other ways, it was tough. And just doing normal daily routines in that environment is really tough. Like I have to do things like catheterize and like routines to like do my other toileting, and trying to do that while staying clean without having full washing facilities and not getting infections. All of that kind of stuff was really tough.
Yeah. Did you know it was going to take 8 days?
Yeah.
Obviously, you must have packed a lot of things to last you for 10 days, 15 days, just in case.
We knew it was going to take 8 days. If we took more than that, it would have been a failure, basically. Like, we wouldn't have achieved it if we hadn't done it in that time frame. Because the only reason we wouldn't have done it that is if something had gone wrong or something had to like cancel. But there was still a lot of like organising that packing. I had 2 big bags with me that we had to take up the mountain, and they had more than enough sort of medical supplies and things like that, because I didn't know whether I'd have problems on the mountain. Who knew? My partner spent the best part of 2 weeks packing bags, unpacking bags, packing them again, as we were thinking, no, we've not got it quite right. Like you're only allowed to take 17 kilos a bag on the mountain for like the weight limits for the guys carrying, that kind of stuff. So it was chaos trying to organise that, and just trying to think of all the things that could go wrong, and have we ticked that box for like what we might need.
And so in total, how many people were on the team in there?
A lot. So we had myself and 8 friends that were from like England, Sweden and Kenya, and then we had the local team on the ground. I think it had about probably 30 or 40 people, in terms of they had porters to carry our stuff up, we had chefs, we had people to help, they took little portable toilets up, and the people that empty those toilets and things like that. So it was a real effort. I mean, I had 8 people directly that were helping the chair, like bits I couldn't do, so like lifting over rocks, pushing me up steeper sections, all of that kind of stuff.
I was going to say, was someone pushing you all the way up? You doing it yourself, or?
So I tried to do bits where I could, but it was pretty much all other people helping, and me physically just trying to cope with the environment. As I say, like.
So was the chair being lifted, or was it just
at times there was no option but to lift it, because there was rocks, cliffs, all sorts of bits that needed climbing. And at one point it was quite sketchy. There was like effectively just sheer cliff drops coming towards the summit, and it felt like one slip and we could all just fall over the edge here. But I had such trust and confidence in the guys that they were amazing. There was such a great team. They called themselves the SWAT team that were on my chair. They were like they were amazing guys, and I'm still in contact with a lot of them now. But
that's good. So 2 charities. So the first one was the Rugby Football Union Injured Players Foundation and Inspire Foundation.
Yeah.
So 2 questions. The first one would be, did you come across them researching, or you probably knew that the Rugby Football Union?
Yeah. So it was a bit of so when I was in hospital, the Inspire Foundation were based at the spinal rehab unit that I was in. So I met them very early on, and I really loved their kind of mentality of, they do research into the spinal cord and things that can help, but they're not so much about like the things like stem cell research, which are very expensive and a long way off. They're much more about like small scale things that can help people in the near future. So one of the things that they've been really keen to study is the bionic bladder. So it's kind of like using electrostimulation to help people with incontinence be able to go to the toilet. And I'm really passionate about that one, because it's not just going to help people with spinal cord injuries, it'll help people with all sorts of neurological conditions like stroke victims, anything that affects bladder function could be enhanced by this research. So, and it's also looking like it could happen in the next 5 to 10 years. So I think that's great, and so pleased to be able to support that. And then the Rugby Football Union Injured Players Foundation helps support anyone with a catastrophic rugby injury. So again, that is spinal injuries. Some people suffer things like strokes or like problems after cardiac arrest, that kind of thing. And many other examples I can't think of off the top of my head, but they really help get people back into living life, help with support with getting back into work, emotional support, financial support. They're just there as like your kind of backup in any kind of bad moments, really.
And did you come across them in the research or through?
No, so I injured myself, and they showed up a couple of days later on my bedside, and they were there to support us, and they supported me and my family for a long time. They helped fund my carer for the carer accommodation at university, all sorts of bits that have allowed me to be where I am today. So,
And so you've turned around at time of recording, I should say, it might have gone off a bit since. So they get half, I'm assuming 50-50.
We're going to split it evenly. The two charities close. I couldn't pick one or the other because they're two charities close to my heart, and I want to support them both. But it'd be nice if we get more money. So
How long is the link active for?
The link lasts we're going to keep it open, but we'll probably shut it down somewhere in 2025. We're probably going to do maybe some last bits of fundraising. I'm keeping it open because I'm probably going to do some videos about my trip. I've now got all the footage from the guys in Tanzania, so I'm going to start putting that together. But given I have work and everything to work around, it's probably going to take me about 6 months to put it all together. So I want to keep it. I'll keep the link open until the video, because obviously the video might drive some funding. So there's plenty of time.
And so I'm seeing your friends had a lot of training to be able to then, lifting the chair and everything else.
So the guys lifting the chair, they've been, I'd say we got a team out there that were very experienced and had done heavy lifting up mountains many times, and they so my friends were there more for emotional support, helping with the medical side, that kind of thing. But some of them took the training quite seriously, some of them winged it a little bit, I would say.
Actually,
yeah, but they're all quite fit people, they're all relatively young, they all play sport, they all, there wasn't one that you felt like couldn't do it, if that makes sense. And thankfully we all actually made it to the top, which was really nice to celebrate with everyone and not have someone that missed out because they didn't achieve it.
And what stage, because I saw you via the BBC, and of course your Instagram as well.
Yeah.
At what point did the BBC see your story and then actually report on the whole thing?
So the BBC first got in contact after reading an article by my old university, actually. So that was, I think, about 6 months before the trek. They did a thing about how I was aiming to be the first complete tetraplegic up the mountain. And then they've sort of followed that journey since then. The Rugby Football Union have got a really good PR team, and they've been helping me get some exposure through those sort of links. Had been on various news channels around the world, Yahoo, Canada, all sorts of places. I've picked up the story, so that was quite mind-blowing how wide some of the stories went.
And were you expecting the reaction that you got?
I don't know really. I hadn't really thought about it too much. I kind of thought that it would be the sort of thing people might be interested in. But I also didn't. I was a bit nervous when this article started coming out because I thought if I don't make it, it's going to be gutting because it's like I'm aiming to be the first, and then it's like everyone's kind of like, oh good luck, oh this is amazing, this is crazy, and then it's if I didn't make it, I'd have felt like kind of a fraud. In some ways that drove me on the mountain because there was a time on the last day where my partner called, like I'd not managed to talk to my partner the whole trip because I'd not had any mobile signal, and then suddenly got some signal about 2 hours from the top, and she called and I was, it made me kind of like teary, and then I was in quite a lot of pain at that point and was exhausted because I'd been getting about 3 hours sleep a night, and I kind of said to the head guide, I don't think I can carry on. And he was like, you're going to have a 10-minute nap in your chair, and then you're going to eat a Mars bar, and then you're going to carry on.
I wouldn't be able to function on that sleep. Jesus.
No, it was tough. Like I was slightly delirious, I would say, and my neck was in so much pain from all the exertion it had been going through that I was taking 2 Cocodamol, 2 ibuprofen, and it still was more pain than I'd ever experienced. It was crazy.
So how come the way down was quicker than was it just going really?
Pretty much, yeah. The way down after the summit, we were charging down a ski slope at pace. It was really fun actually. I thought the chair was going to break. I was like, my chair, there's no way it's going to survive this. But as I say, we built the chair from scratch, and it was we built it with a company called Waterless that build very strong chairs, but we didn't think it would cope with it. Thankfully,
if I would have a job to just go down.
I think the way down was always harder than the way up because on the way up, one of the main factors that stops you succeeding. On the way up, one of the things that stops you succeeding is the altitude. So you can't do too much in one day. You have to take it slowly and get used to the altitude as you go. If you try and do it too fast, you just end up sick basically. So on the way down, you're kind of not having to acclimatise as you go. But in one way, it was harder because on the way up, we were doing 5-6 hours a day. On the way down, there was one day where we did about 14 hours. And it was, well, that was the most painful day because I was already in pain, I was already tired, I was already worn out, and you also kind of achieved your goal, so it's kind of like going through this pain and the goal's already been achieved. But yeah, coming down was a lot faster, thankfully.
And how were they going during it in September, autumn season? So away from summer into the cold months, and
so it's slightly different because it's in Tanzania. They have slightly different seasons because it's on the equator, basically, or near the equator. So we went there because that's the dry season. So in some ways it might have been colder, but at least we knew we wouldn't get rain. Because rain is the thing that really messes me up in a wheelchair. At least I don't know how you find it, but to me rain is the worst thing ever because you're soggy, you're damp, you get cold. Pushing a chair becomes harder. Everything just becomes harder in the rain. So yeah.
And is this the electric / manual chair?
So this chair is electric, like / manual. So it's a manual with electric help.
Yes.
I didn't take the electric wheels up the mountain with me. I had normal wheels on it.
Because
But this was the chair that went up the mountain with some of that attachments. that were
Because
also there.
I was going to say, because they'll power down quite quickly.
Oh, yeah, there's no way we could have charged them on the mountain, especially as batteries just don't last at altitude.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
cold.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
So it's pure manual.
yeah.
And so looking back now, you've done it. How do you feel?
I feel amazing, but I'm really.
You've come back a changed man.
Yeah, I think when I was at the top, it didn't really sink in. I didn't really enjoy the top as much as I might have, or you expect, because you're feeling awful, you're in pain, you don't get that long up there because you've got to get back down. It was only afterwards that I kind of realised what an amazing experience it was and how wonderful it was. And I think when it really sunk in was when the Guinness World Record arrived. And I was kind of like, okay, wow, that's actually, I've got that for life now. No one can ever be the first again, so it can never be taken off me. And that kind of was amazing, but I kind of get like into my mindset of like, what's next? And I think for me now, I've been almost put in this privileged position because of this whole journey I've been on. I've now got a slight voice of like, in the disability community. It's given me the opportunity to raise awareness of things.
Absolutely.
So I kind of want to next stage is kind of raise awareness for disability, but also raise awareness of better care. And better care in terms of independence for me and my partner, because I think the care system at the moment is too focused on supporting the medical side of me, but my partner supports me in so many ways, and to me true independence is being able to have a proper relationship with my partner and help her. But at the moment that's not happening and not allowed, and I feel like that's it's really tough. It's hard enough to get into relationships with a disabled person anyway. There's so many barriers, and care shouldn't be one of those. Care should be enabling relationships, enabling you to be independent. So I'm really like, that's what I kind of want to raise my voice to help achieve, but also just better care in general, because it's a real struggle for a lot of people.
Yeah. No wonder why the NHS is on its knees.
Yeah. It's tough. It's a tough situation. It's definitely, when I was first injured, the situation was a little bit better, and it's gradually eroding away, and I can see that, and I want to raise that now before it becomes a situation where we're back in like the 70s and the disabled people have no quality of life, and they can't have relationships, they can't be independent, they can't live the lives we should be living, like deserving to live.
We need better services everywhere.
Yes, for sure. It's
We'll try, we're not pushing on the door, but
yeah,
it's whether the kids down wants to listen or not.
there's so many people that like, as a civil servant I'm not allowed to get into politics, but we need to, there's a place for disabled people as well, and if we give them the right support they can add to society just like any other person. We need to realise that, not just see them as a burden. That's the thing.
100%. And then you were the first wheelchair user with paraplegic spinal cord injury to actually climb Mount Kilimanjaro.
Yeah, so to say that when the Guinness World Record arrived, that's when everything kind of sunk in. It was a lot of. I think that the other thing that made me really realise what I'd done was when other tetraplegics like myself got in contact, and they were like, "You're insane! Like, I can't believe you actually attempted that, let alone achieved it." And I think there was something watching over us, because everything kind of fell into place. Like, we prepared for it all. Like, me and my partner had got everything sorted to the nth degree, as well as other people on the ground, like the Kilimanjaro expert team. They were everything we planned for, mate. But in terms of how well it could have gone, it probably couldn't have gone much better. Like, in terms of the weather we got, we had rain, a minor amount of rain. We had clear conditions. It wasn't too, as I say, it was only -10. It could have been -30, so that's lucky. But we got there, and I'm very proud to say that I achieved that as the first person.
Look at this. So how does it work? Because I remember looking at applying at one point for something, and it's quite a very various process.
It's a really long process actually, and it's they weren't very, I wouldn't say helpful. They weren't very like understanding at first. So I wrote them saying that I'm going to be the first complete tetraplegic, and they were basically said, we've got no category for that. Like, there's no disability. We've got tetraplegia, but another tetraplegic had done it, but they were a spinal injury tetraplegic that was incomplete. So if you don't know the difference between incomplete and complete, it's effectively the amount of damage that's done to the spinal cord. So he was actually able to walk, able to lead a near normal physical life. So I wrote back to them, I said, I think this is a very unfair ruling on disability because your categories are too broad, basically. Tetraplegia.
It's not unique to
specific. So I said to them, and me and my partner wrote a long letter to them, basically listing out various disabilities and saying this is like the differences, and I think your categorisation is actually quite discriminatory. And then they looked at it and they wrote back to me saying, actually we've looked into what different complete and incomplete is, and we'd like to give you we'd like to recategorise it to allow for complete and versus incomplete. And they're also going to look. They also said they're going to look into all of their disability classifications again to check that they're actually meeting the needs of users and they're fair, because our letter raised a lot of questions about various disabilities, saying that at the moment we feel like it's skewed towards the more able of the disabled. So yeah, I was quite proud that actually they're reconsidering everything because of what we're doing. So yeah.
And did you have the person, the sort of good about a post suit at the time, giving you the plaque?
Unfortunately not. No, it was much less dignified than that. Basically, it arrived in the post. It was once we came down from the mountain, we had to send up all the evidence. So they said, like, if you're going to do it, you need to collect this evidence. So we had to have a GPS log of every day that we did on the mountain. We had to have video evidence, photographic evidence, medical evidence, and they said you need to send that all in after you've completed the challenge. So I also had to have evidence from the governing body, who are like the people that run the mountain, like the national park, basically, to say we've done it. So about a few days after I got back, we collected all the evidence, sent it off to Guinness, and about 6 weeks later, this
I was just saying, someone committed.
Yeah.
Because I've seen those things on TV where you got someone there with a smart suit and they go, well done. You know what I mean?
I think so they do that sometimes,
yeah.
But I think that's often when it's a celebrity. Yeah. Or
and there's a cost to that, so.
Yeah, and also, if they'd done that with me, they would have had to climb the mountain with me, and I don't think they fancied doing that. If you're in a room doing a world record, I think they don't mind it, but yeah, it was, like, they don't always have to be there in town, but as long as there's significant evidence it's happened, so yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
And so, what's next? You're going quite liberal? There goes a mountains around.
It's, what's next? I think I'm going to take a break. So I kind of want to do a bit of activism stuff, like disability rights, disability awareness kind of stuff. I want to do some other projects with my partner that she's keen on doing, because she's put so much of her life on hold for my challenge. It's time to do a bit of returning the favour. But then it's also, and I'm also really excited about those challenges as well, some filming challenges, things like that we want to do. And then maybe 5-6 years time, who knows, I might do something crazy again, but I've not decided what yet. It's that'll be.
You're all of your voice though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. There's I feel like it's shown me there's opportunities out there, and it's shown me that I can achieve great things, but yeah, I think one of the things I want to do is maybe look at my career again and see where I want to go with that, all of that first, as well. So yeah, we'll see. But on the side, I'm doing some comedy, like stand-up comedy, and
sit down comedy.
Sit down stand-up, and it's but I'm really enjoying that at the moment, and just trying to focus on some more, in some ways more normal, in other ways people think that's not normal. It's not normal to go do stand-up comedy, I guess, but it's,
obviously there's a lot of thank yous to this, isn't there, really, with the whole journey, and the friends that you have made, and the charities and everyone for that support. And your work as well, because obviously you and the friends would have taken a lot of time at work and didn't know when you were back. So
Actually, I didn't have to take too much time. I took off 2.5 weeks.
okay.
And I fitted that in my annual leave, but work have been really supportive in helping with fundraising, things like that. They let me do like charity cake bake sales at the office, which raised quite a lot of money. My partner baked, and then we took those around, and I think that raised about £500 in total. So that was, all of those little things add up, and also just allowed me at times to be like, right, I need to go to an appointment to get assessed for altitude. I need to go get a doctor to sign me off and all of this, and work being like, okay, yeah, we get you're doing this kind of crazy thing. As long as you fit it around your schedule, like get the work done, that's kind of like what we care about. So that was great, and I feel like they were supportive. As I say, there's so many thank yous. Like I would say this wasn't me. This was like an us thing. Like I was the face of it, but everyone else contributed. My partner, my mother, the people out on the ground, my friends, anyone that donated, the companies that supported us, the guy that designed the chair. I'm probably missing loads of people, but it was endless, and I think it just shows the power of like community and teamwork. Really.
And it goes through the world. Good people around.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of people in the world that aren't very nice, but there's also I think they're more than outnumbered by the people that want to help.
Absolutely. And maybe those from challenge now, go back into normal life. So when you're in your home, you lost the ability to sleep for 1,000 years, like Sleeping Beauty.
So when I got back, I didn't realise how tired I was until I wasn't tired anymore. Because I went back into work 4 days after I got back, and then I was kind of like, didn't realise I was struggling, but I realised about 3 weeks later I went to work and I was kind of like, oh, I can think, I can like do work again, like properly, and I realised I'd be kind of like walking through sludge, or like wheeling through sludge, I guess.
Yeah, there you go, yeah.
It was like my brain wasn't fully functioning yet. Like I was getting tired really early, like having to go to bed at like 8 o'clock and that sort of thing. And it was a really weird thing that I was so exhausted. I think one of the things I'm really lucky about is that a lot of people with my condition really suffer from exhaustion. I seem to have relatively boundless energy until I crash, and then I really crash. But overall I have good energy, so that's good, but I really felt it afterwards.
And I saw your van outside.
Yes.
Was that the car that you got always adapted for you?
So that's a Motability van actually. It's adapted for me.
So.
I only got that one recently. I had it about 2 weeks ago actually. The one I had at the time when I did the trip was a VW that was adapted for me to drive from. I'm a bit sad because I had to, it came to the end of its lease basically, so I had to get a replacement, but I couldn't afford to get a new drive from vehicle, and they wouldn't give me a grant to get one anymore, because I'm in my job, they said I earn a bit too much to get the grant, which...
Oh, because you earn over a certain amount of...
I earn over a certain amount, but unfortunately I don't earn over that certain amount to be able to afford to buy it myself, so I feel like I'm stuck in that little gap of like, not being, like, earning too much to get the support, but not earning enough to fund it myself, so it's,
You're between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, exactly. So I sometimes feel like almost, again, it's like one of those issues that's far wider, but disabled people, there's no encouragement to work, because as soon as you work, you start having things taken away from you, that it's very difficult to put yourself in that position. It's quite a tricky situation, and again, it's sort of taking away that independence.
And that's something that some able people don't get.
Yeah.
And until you're disabled yourself, you know.
Exactly.
what things are.
Yeah, exactly. I think we need to have support in place for disabled people. We also need to enable people to be independent and have that, be able to achieve things. But that also doesn't mean forcing people into work, because not everyone can do that. That's not possible. It's just, there's an assumption it's all or nothing at the moment. It's like you either sit at home and do, like, this is like the perception of other people, not the reality, but they always assume you either got to just sit there and do nothing, or you've got to be fully into work and everything. And it's like, that's not life for a disabled person. It's just this, it's not reality.
And when you at the end, so this is something that I've done all of, I'm going to say last year because obviously it comes out this. So is there any tips or advice that you would give to other people with the same condition that you've got?
So I think there's a few, which is try and achieve the little things in life and they'll add up. Like if there's something that you're struggling with, try and just overcome that little hurdle each day, and then your life will become better again. Because, as I said early on, it's easy to get into a mindset of, I can't achieve anything, you're struggling, all of that, but it does become easier, and I say this for able-bodied people too, that if you can achieve that one thing that you're afraid to do or is stopping you from reaching the next goal in your life, just overcome that little thing, take a little step each day. Don't try and make a big problem out of it. But I think the other thing is just take every opportunity you have, because life is short. I've nearly died a couple of times from pneumonia, and life is short. You don't know when it's going to end, and if you don't take those opportunities, who knows? And yeah, you've got to grasp it while you can.
Is there anything else you want to talk about, or pretty much is there anything in your life?
No, I think that's great. Yeah, no, it's, I really appreciate being asked to come and do the.
It was a pleasure to have you.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Voice FM.